Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Mary Beth Jarvis, and on behalf of the rest of the team at Nexus, we've got Josh Oding in the room, Quinn Robertson in the room, Kate Duxler in the room. We are delighted to have you here today for NXTCONNECT, the June edition. We've got an unbalanced room. I think everybody sitting closest to the door is ready to make a break for it halfway through, so we'll be watching you, people. No, I'm kidding. We are really excited about our program today. Stick with us because at the end of the discussion that will be enlightening and hopefully informative for y'all and include time for some interaction and Q&A. We will also be telling you about our NXTCONNECT program, which we're also really delighted to be bringing. This one's going to be sort of a celebrity sighting, somebody that flies into town, gives all kinds of hard messages and then leaves, and we all pick up the pieces and move forward in our ecosystem. But so we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. I want to start today by welcoming the folks in the room to Groover Labs. For those on Zoom or the folks that are in the room that haven't been here before, it is an amazing hub, an ecosystem edifice that is gathering entrepreneurs in a co-working space, but also building up studio and makerspace, a podcast studio, you name it. Tracy Hoover and Kurt Gridley, who are the brains and the charitable wallets behind Groover Labs, are really trying to create a hub for entrepreneurial collisions and creative exchanges, and help along with all of us working in the ecosystem here to create that environment where would-be entrepreneurs are emboldened, new entrepreneurs are aided, and those folks trying to build a thriving business have tools and connections and resources and shoulders to cry on, such that they can keep up with the grind of beginning and scaling young, high potential businesses. So for everybody in the audience that falls on that continuum, we're here to support, and today's discussion will certainly be an occasion to do that and celebrate. So I'm going to bring up folks to fill the 3 chairs next to me. We are delighted at NXTCONNECT to have with us representatives from a unique collaborative, the Matchstick Alliance. And they are an alliance of 3 companies here in town, highly respected professional services providers with wisdom and advice and experience and lessons learned, some of them the hard way, as they've worked with companies over the years. And today's curriculum is how to identify and avoid, if you possibly can, those things that this group in all their wisdom has classified as the stumbling blocks, the 5 top ways that young companies can stumble, and how to structure your thinking and your progress as an entrepreneur to avoid those. So we're going to bring up the wisdom. Next to me is going to be Bill Gardner with Gardner Design, the brains behind an incredible marketing and design firm here in town, and an international leader in the world of logos and branding. So Bill, lovely to have you here.
There's a lot of other brains at our firm. I'm just...
Well, there you go. He's the one with his name on the door, so you do the math. Okay, from AGH, John Trowbridge. Alan Gibson Hulick is a broadly skilled consultancy, everything from does your taxes and does your audit to help consult on how you, either as a new or a mature business, can structure and thrive. So we're delighted to have John with us. And then from Folston Siefken, Francis Ballman. Folston and the team there are the legal brains behind some of the greatest businesses that have been birthed and grown out of Kansas, and they continue to be on the front lines of helping firms. There are other representatives from Gardner and AGH and Folston in the audience, but the rest of you are able to get, this is like the cheapest professional advice ever. Thank you very much for making it out to Groover Labs. So we're going to just get started. Yeah, I'm apparently getting the bill. So everybody, there'll be a GoFundMe that hits the Facebook here right after the session. Okay, Matchstick Alliance. Again, this collaborative designed to really sort of say out loud that these 3 firms are intentional about becoming go-to creative resources for young companies that are just trying to get out the gate and figure out what they need to go. They are ready to make bets on the growth and success of their clients and provide their wisdom and advice. if you're getting just free advice, you're probably getting what you pay for. But if you can take advantage of these professional services gurus, today's discussion will be a little bit of a primer for how to do that in a smart, cost-effective, and and paired with
Since we're
folks.
getting ready to give free advice.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's, well,
Yeah.
But we made you come do this. So this is like organized free advice, not just like on the ninth tee after a gin and tonic. So,
the really kind of interesting thing about this particular group is that all three of our professions, whether it's through marketing and branding or through accounting or through legal services, see just hundreds in a year of individuals or groups that are trying to start up an entity. And, we're continually being kind of asked for advice in one way or the other. And I think it was actually from these two sitting over here to my left that they had that initial idea of let's see if we can't kind of gather our resources together, because frankly, people need advice in all of these areas and others. But smartly, just kind of move the ecosystem of entrepreneurs forward in this community and in the region. The idea of the possibility of even providing some level of deferred service from time to time and being able to make ourselves even more accessible to those individuals was the impetus for kind of making it happen.
absolutely. So accessibility is what we're all about today. And what you are going to have accessible to you is the top 5 ways startups stumble and how to avoid them. These guys are going to give it all in the positive. I may be the one that chimes in with the, so how might one fall on one's face in this area and get some lessons learned out of that. So Bill, we're actually going to start with you.
Yep.
And the first way that startups can stumble is really, frankly, not being keenly aware of who their customer is, and frankly, by extension, why they buy from them and how they can buy from them. And so we'd love to hear kind of your wisdom on how a young company, how a new venture can avoid that morass of not actually honing in on and being able to court successfully the customers you need to thrive.
That's so early at the thinking process oftentimes for any entrepreneur, is this idea that really what they've done is they have an idea, and but they haven't really thought through, this idea is formulated and it may be fully born in their mind, but they haven't really formulated who their customer is. They haven't really thought about, what their needs are, because they're so focused on that initial idea that they have. I mean, you even made that comment about start with the end in mind, or begin with the end in mind. And that really is so key. And it sounds like such simple advice, but it's one of those things that too many people wander into a project not really thinking about exactly who the customer is and defining that particular aspect of what they're going to be doing.
So let's dive into that. I've got a slide here of yours.
So
what's with all the fuzzy beverages?
So I love this way of kind of defining customers for just a second. So in branding, we often find ourselves taking something, some entity, and trying to define it by developing a story around it, developing information so that the consumer has an idea of exactly what it is being offered. So if you take a look there, there's basically 6 different containers, all of which are full of mineral sparkling water that maybe have as a little hint of lime in it or something like that. If I were to pour those into glasses, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, really. I mean, frankly, it's all basically the same product. But I want you to think for just a second about different people that you know in your life and the different personalities of different individuals. You could probably tell me exactly which one of those one of your friends is going to go pick up, just because you know enough about them as an individual that, okay, they're more continental, they're going to pick up the Pellegrino, or they're younger and savvier, they're going to pick up the Izzy, or they're going to, but really the product is the same in all of them, isn't it? It pretty much is. So when you start talking about branding, it's a matter of, if we define who that customer is first, then we can build that husk, build that shell, build that vessel around whatever that product is, so that it's targeted to whoever that customer is, as opposed to this idea of, great, I've just invented sparkling water and it's got lime in it, I'm going to sell it.
There we go. Okay, so keep on with that. If you
Yep.
start with your customer in mind,
Yep.
knowing that the product has to exist and
Yep.
has to not suck,
Right.
but thinking about it customer first, what do you got to do? Like what do you go forward and do once your brain is set on that prioritization?
So being able to kind of define that particular customer is something that you can start to think in your mind, okay, I think that there is a niche for this sparkling water in this area that's not being served. But do you know that for a fact? Have you really done your research? Have you found out that, in fact, no, there is nobody serving that? Or, in fact, maybe you are thinking about a niche that doesn't exist. Interestingly, I love to share with customers that come in with an idea that really hasn't been well defined, that the great news about defining a niche is that you get to define it however you want to define it. The bad news is you have to define it. And it costs a lot of money to
and you have
define
to
a
go
niche.
get it, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to go form it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
have
have
to
the
make your own
resources to
niche.
do that.
So it's a matter of, the very first work that you do is determining who that customer is. There's even a study that we do that uses some basic kind of foundation research from Jennifer Ocker from Stanford, who goes into personality definitions for brands, where we start to break brands down into helping somebody think through, is your customer going to fit into a sincerity or an excitement or a competence or a ruggedness or a sophistication personality profile? And there is an objective way to get to a subjective solution. So much of branding appears to be highly subjective. It's, I like the looks of that, or I think
feels
this is
like
a good
me.
idea.
Yeah.
But there really is this objective foundation that comes back to the facts and the figures that end up playing out who your potential customers are. How do we locate them? Instead of looking at demographics, starting to look at psychographics. So, it's not just about drawing pictures. It's about working with that customer to really determine who their customers are.
So if you're building a Main Street business, right?
Yep.
If you have a product to offer your neighbor, your consumer, somebody in town, or you're building a tech tool
Yep.
that's designed to be a scalable, young startup, what I hear you saying is it's all about them, their personality, their needs, understand it,
Yeah.
keenly focus on it.
Yeah.
Stop playing with your tech and go figure out your customer, and then create a story and stick to it.
Yeah.
As you're out there making that, making your mark
Yeah.
on whatever you're trying to sell.
So when you walk back after the presentation and we've done all this research and you're looking at something and you're going, gee, I'm just not sure, I don't really like violet, it's not for you.
It's not about you. Yeah.
It's for your customer.
Right.
Anyway.
There you have it.
Yep.
So we're going to move on. We're going to throw the mic over to John, and we're going to transition into kind of second thing that can make you stumble. And that is that your business plan is misaligned with either reality, or it's not yet at the clarity and quality that you need. And so John's going to help us walk through. And there's 10 of these, John. So I'm gonna keep the pace
I'm not
up
gonna
here.
talk about all
Right.
of
So
them.
we're gonna flash up 5 at a time.
Yeah.
You can take a picture of the screen if you want, but really listen to those things that in these guys' experience are the key points of outlining who you are and what you want to be as an early stage business in order to set the groundwork for real progress and real organized path forward for your company. So let's start it out.
So I'm not going to go through all 10 in great detail or anything like that. Most of you in the room or watching online have either started a business or many businesses, or are now trying to start a business, or have maybe consulted with other people about starting a business. And everybody's always heard, you got to have a business plan. You got to have a business plan. You got to have a business plan. So you all probably know what these elements of a business plan are. You've heard it. You've had a course at Wichita State or somewhere about doing a business plan. What I want to really talk about is realism and being realistic in your business plan as you go through this thing. Now, the executive summary, obviously, you need to do a good job with your executive summary, because maybe that's the only thing you're going to get people to read. That's, you talked about starting with the end in mind. That's the end, but you got to have all the other elements to get to it. But we're starting with the end in mind because it encapsulates everything about your business and about what you're trying to do, but it encapsulates it well, hopefully, for an executive, so they can have it summarized, bumper stickered, if you will, so they know exactly what you're all about very quickly. But then you want to give them more detail. So I'm just going to skip company description, market analysis. There, he's going to
It
help you
can't be
define who
skipped
your
in real
market is.
life.
You
but
can't skip them, but
for
I'm
purposes
going
of
to.
today, just know it's got to be there.
You
That's right.
got to do it all, but I don't have time to go through all of them, and I like the sound of my own voice, so we'd be here a while. And Bill gets to do all the fun stuff and talk about the colors and the things. I'm generally talking about numbers. So when we talk about having a realistic business strategy or business plan, what we're talking about is the numbers. When I say I want it to be realistic, I don't want you to say, okay, well, I think I can do this much. I can sell these many fizzy waters or whatever it is you're selling. You need market analysis. So you've got market analysis in here to show, okay, here's how I came up with my numbers. You've got competitive analysis. Who am I competing with? All those other fizzy water brands. Who am I competing with? Is it realistic that I can get this share of the market? How do I find that out? Again, you're doing the analysis. You have to be realistic. If you walk in and Josh can talk about this better than I, Francis with their work with AVP, they can probably talk more about what are investors looking for, and then I would love for them to chime in. But when they flip to the back of your business plan and look at, go ahead and flip to the next page. When they go ahead and look at those financial projections, because that's what we're ultimately trying to get to, they're going to look at those financial projections and say, is this realistic based on the market analysis they've done, based on the competitive analysis that they've done, based on the sales strategy that they have and their marketing plan? And when, have they defined who their customer is? Have they done some marketing? Are they going to be able to reach these numbers? And that's where us boring accountants can come in and help you, look at those things. Okay, you've given me all these numbers. You've done the marketing strategies or the analysis, market analysis, competitive analysis. You've got a marketing strategy, you've got a sales strategy. Based on all that, is this realistic? And then can we project it out so that an investor or lender can look at this and say, okay, this is realistic. They're going to decide if they like the product, the service, or whatever fairly quickly. Is this realistic? Can we get to this?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to just acknowledge in the room that the audience for the business plans, and we'll talk a little bit more here in a few minutes about the audience of lenders or investors or sort of financial partners. The audience for your business plan is varied. It's the second person you want to bring on your team that's super smart and has to take a bet on you, right?
Right.
It's the customers you're going to have to acquire. And so, I'll ask the question this way. If the way a young business can stumble is having an unrealistic or not with these correct elements kind of business plan, how do you answer but come on, guys, what's the sweet spot between drawing a shiny picture that gets people excited and engaged and caring and the, realism part, right? Like, how do you talk about your positive attributes, the potential that you see in your business, the product you're selling, the market you're tackling, the team that you've got, whatever it is. And then, what's enough realism, I guess, kind of like a job interview when they ask you, what's your worst downside? Like, how do you really answer that? What advice? I hear you say, make sure there's numbers. What else means realism?
Well, and that's the tightrope that you always have to walk a little bit. You want to project a great picture. You've got the great idea. You've got the great product. You've got the great service. but you have to walk that tightrope. Okay, I don't want to get down in the weeds too much. I'm an accountant, we get down in the weeds too much. So you need someone, you need a team. You need someone like Bill on your team to help you think about, okay, who is my audience? Not just my market when it comes to what I'm selling, but my market when I'm selling myself, so that he can sit with you and say, okay, you've done this. We've done this market analysis. Here's the numbers. These are real. Now let's take them and get to your accountant and put some projections together, because you don't necessarily have to show them all the numbers in your business plan, but you have to have some that back it up. If they ask for it, they may ask for more. Okay, this is a great projection. Wow, can you really do that? And then you can pull it out. You can whip it out and say, oh yeah, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. But it's like writing a grant or writing anything. When you write your business plan, you need to understand who your audience is and how much of it do I need to put in. And it may depend on what you're trying to sell, whether it's a service, a product, what industry you're in. Certain investors in certain industries may need a lot more of it. Some may not. So there's nuances in everything there. And I would argue, you said the second person that you need to get on board is the investor. I think the second person you need to get on board is the accountant, because generally none of you are accountants and nobody cares about the accounting. But I'll guarantee you, in every successful business that makes it past the initial stage and becomes a mature business, they've got a good, strong accounting function. So not only can they give projections and go get some money, but they know what they're doing with the money once they get it, and they can account for what they're doing. Because accountability, whether it's to your investors, to your lenders, to yourself, you have to have that good, strong accounting function in order to manage your business and account to your investors.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but also would broaden that point. The fact of the matter is, I think entrepreneurs need to surround themselves with members of their team, whether those are formal or informal teams, or they're other, sort of skeptics and consultants in the ecosystem that can help ask the questions they don't first ask themselves. Just like somebody needs to be asking about, are you, seeking a customer and building your story and your brand around that customer more than yourself? Someone needs to be asking have you, are these numbers realistic? Have you scrubbed it right? Have you thought about this? Because that second person you might need to join your team is not, I didn't necessarily mean that as the investor. It may be that's, that partner in your, in your firm, that co-founder that you could bring alongside. Because if your business plan isn't this fleshed out and this realistic, that's who you may need to add as your other half, or your, a partner in whatever form, to ensure that you're getting off the ground with somebody that can help fill your blind spots and create that sense of completeness and realism that the business plan will need to succeed. All right, makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've reached a point where we're thinking about this entrepreneurship thing, or we're on the road, we're honing a business plan that is at least starting to have these kind of characteristics. Let's focus on the how, meaning the structure of a young company, and that stumbling block of doing that right or wrong from the beginning. Wrong is the stumble, right? Is the goal. What does it matter? So Francis, help us understand the structuring of a business and ways that how a young business should see themselves on the different paths of structuring a new company.
Sure. So we get this question all the time, and a lot of time what stems it is, hey, I'm getting ready to start a new business and my investor says I need to have an entity, or the bank won't open up a bank account unless I've got LLC documents. So can you please help? And so once they get in and you start talking about their business, a lot of them realize pretty quickly having an entity, the right type of entity, is critical to what you want to do. And what entity that is depends really on what your business is going to be. If you're a tech company that anticipates raising a lot of money, a corporation may be the right way to go, because there's some tax benefits. If you have a sale of a corporation after you raise money, that will entice your investors to want to invest in your company. But for a lot of other entities, the LLC route is the preferred route. So, but both those entities provide personal liability protection, which is critical. As a business owner, you do not want to put your personal assets, your life savings, your house, your kids' college, you don't want to put any of those at risk with your business. And that's what an entity does. It helps protect that. And then the entity also has what I like to call the rule book. And so why is that important? Well, I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, Brandon Turner with Bigger Pockets. I'm a big real estate guru, but he was telling a story with him and a couple other guys that were going to start a fund, and they were going to go buy mobile home parks across the country. And so him and two other guys were going to do it. Brandon was going to do the fundraising because he had all these connections. He has the podcast. This other guy was the accounting guru that was going to put together the numbers and be able to get that. And then the third guy was going to be the deal source guy, the guy that was going to go out and find the mobile home parks. Well, they decided to go a third. They put the entity together, I think, fairly quickly. Didn't think through, I think, the what ifs. What would happen if, this doesn't work out, or two of us are pulling our weight and one is not. So what ended up happening was the guy that was going to go source the deals was just too busy in his other business ventures and couldn't do it. Well, fortunately in that case, they all worked together, and the third guy figured out a way to get out, but it always doesn't happen that way. Yeah. And so spending a little bit of money up front with a lawyer, putting together that rule book, that operating agreement, the bylaws, the structure to anticipate those type of things will save you a lot of money in the long run. And when you're going to raise money and invest and speak to other partners, having that structure in place provides a certain level of credibility in that you're really in this and you're thoughtful and you have the right partner. So the short answer is it depends on what you're trying to form, but you definitely want to have some type of entity for personal liability protection, and which one you choose will ultimately depend on how much money you want to raise, what your business is, and what your goals are.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you saying get the advice even before you can afford the advice, or you're going to be getting way more help than you can afford, down the road. And so, I think it's the suck it up now or suck up more later. And we need to make sure that entrepreneurs and founders, back to our begin with the end in mind, at least have the foresight to start out on a footing that, as best one can predict, is the right structure. If you end up succeeding beyond your initial, wildest dreams, fine. Then, you'll have the wherewithal to switch it up.
Absolutely. And an additional benefit I've seen with coming and talking to, one of us service providers is we're connected with a lot of people in the community. So you're going to come in and we'll talk about, legal stuff and entity formation, but, you may need marketing or lending support. And we know a lot of the players in town and can make those connections. We want you to succeed. And with the Matchstick Alliance, we're placing a bet on you and deferring some of those fees. And so we want you to be successful. And that was kind of one of the genesis for getting this group together, is if you take all of our service providers, the services we provide, and all of our connections, we can help propel you in a direction that would be much more difficult for you to get by yourself on your own.
No, it makes sense. And I'll tell you, one of the things I love about this market, and these guys and their firms represented here on the stage, but so many other professional services around town, connectivity is a theme. I mean, their intention is to get you the help you need as best they can hone it to what you can handle and need exactly right then and can afford. But they'll also be ready with open doors, the same way those of us that work in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, intend to be and act every day as connectors. So, that meeting you're dreading, that bill you're dreading could actually be, the pathway to other advisors, assistants, connections, and opportunities that, you didn't count on. But we're going to stick with you, Francis, because I think alongside the trail of how should I form the company with regard to kind of legal advice is this, what steps are worth taking and why with regard to, getting some protection around that great idea or that product you're developing. So protecting your intellectual property is is necessary, but to what degree and how? And the stumbling block is not thinking about that soon enough or with the right tools. So what do you have to offer the crew on this subject?
Absolutely. I'm going to give two examples that'll hopefully segue into kind of two important areas on this point. So we represented a client several years ago that had came out with this really cool software product. It had shown traction in the market, and they had gotten a large investor that was going to invest a significant sum of money in the company. So that investor did some due diligence. And as part of the due diligence, they figured out that the software developers that the founder had hired way back at the beginning, there were no written agreements in place. And so the default rule typically is whoever creates the intellectual property owns the intellectual property. And so since the software developer way back when he put it together, didn't have an agreement that that intellectual property transferred to the company, the investor did not want to make the investment unless we could track down the software developer and get him after the fact to sign an assignment of all his intellectual property that he created in connection with the project to them. It took a little while, but fortunately we were able to track him down and he was amenable and signed it. But that just goes to show you the importance of when you're hiring service providers that are going to create intellectual property, and that could be branding, it could be forecasting, it could be software development. It's very critical to have the agreements in place that make very clear who gets that intellectual property and what those rights are.
Well, and I think this is another one of those deals where you're bailing wire and bubble gumming on, the early help for your venture. But you've got to remember at the same time that you need to protect yourself as if you were your future self. And that doesn't make you a litigious jerk, founder. It just makes you have some forethought, right? So while you're asking that favor of that software developer who you probably can barely afford right now, you're also going to have the, seemingly uncomfortable conversation about, the intellectual property that results, or, the protection of the work product. And so even while you're asking favors, ask them in the way that protects you going forward, and just suck up if that feels icky, because that's the reality of the business that you're trying to grow and protect.
And it's so much easier to have that conversation on the front end instead of on the back end when maybe you're not using them anymore, or they realize the value that's been created and the dollars that are attached to it. It's better to get that out of the way up front, and not have to worry about it going forward. So
no, makes perfect sense. Bill, you may want to add just a second on that with regard to the IP as it relates to your branding, because I think actually this is an area where folks do too much and too little.
Yeah.
Right? Like they worry too much too fast, and then sometimes later they worry too little too late.
So I get to have this conversation with clients on a near daily basis about intellectual property, but the first thing that I do is I say, hey, I'm not the attorney. Go talk to Francis. Go talk to Folsom, because they can provide you great intellectual property advice. But when you start thinking about, I'm going to make a statement here, which Francis can either back me up on or tell me I'm totally wrong. But
watch for an eye roll, people.
We'll see. When you say, I love the fact that you back up when I start. When you're talking about intellectual property and you are in front of a judge, one of the statements that really comes into play is there the possibility of confusion in the consumer's mind? So when you start talking about, do you own this? Is this something that you can market? Does somebody else already own it? Is there already a patent on it? Is it registered? Is it there? And there are a lot of different ways that property can be protected. Mary Beth, when we were talking here about a week ago, you made that comment about in Shark Tank. Everybody's seen Shark Tank where the folks are sitting up there with the dollars going, have you got a patent on it, or is it registered, or is it
can someone compete that away tomorrow?
Yeah. Exactly, and that's so often part of the case here. One of the things that we deal continually with is if you've got an idea and you're thinking, man, I'm gonna develop this, I'm gonna protect it. Do you know that it's not already somebody else's idea? Do you know that somebody else doesn't already have a patent on that device? Or do you know that somebody else doesn't have a patent on that process? Or do you know that somebody else doesn't have that name protected in such a way that you can't utilize it? And we see so many people that get so far down the road and have such both a fiscal and an emotional investment in something, and then find themselves backtracking, trying to find a way to be able to protect it when they can't, many times, which is unfortunate.
They can neither protect it nor can they monetize it in the way they'd like.
Exactly. And so when And again, IP is your phrase that you're looking for intellectual property, but it covers a broad variety of things. And also keep in mind that there's huge amounts of gray area when you get into talking to somebody, an attorney especially, about IP, because it's not just black and white. We might find ourselves in a situation where a client that we're working with, we're developing nomenclature or naming for, and we come up with a name. Well, you can use it in a region, but you can't register it. It has some common law copyright. You can work with it in this area, but you can't work it in that area. And I mean, you really need that advice early on to be able to tell you what you own, what you can own, what you can't own, and how you're going to be able to utilize it.
Yeah, and what you can proceed with.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in this area, frankly, of legal and or branding advice, sometimes you need to ask the question, what if I do nothing? And they need to give you a realistic answer there. And it could be that your what if I do nothing isn't all that bad, right? If you intend to be local, or you intend to, have a limited, the idea that you might confuse the customer in a smaller space is a much different answer than if you intend to build a global brand or sell it to an investor.
You just said something there that I've always loved, which is that when you register something, when you patent something, it's not to protect you, the person who developed it, the person who's creating it, the person who's marketing it. That protection is there through the government entity to protect the consumer. That's the reason for it being there, so that if they buy a device that says it's got Intel inside, it actually has Intel inside. So that if they,
my Prado purse doesn't,
it's actually
doesn't
a Prado
cut it.
purse.
Yeah,
and,
I gotcha.
Prado,
Prado.
The $250 billion knockoff market that the World Trade Organization estimates annually that's going on. I mean, there's a reason for that level of protection.
So whatever my idea is, at least ask the question. Don't go crazy, but listen to the answer and begin with your future in mind. All right, we're going to switch to the next topic. We're going to give the mic to John, I think. And John's going to talk a little bit about this stage of your business where you need money. Now, of course, everyone knows that's every stage of your business, but specifically where you're trying to be credible and get positive outcomes as you're seeking funding of some kind, financing, loans, whatever. Some stumbling blocks and your advice, John. Let's do it.
So generally, by the time you get here, when you're actually going out and seeking financing from a third party, whatever
that's after the $7 in your own wallet is gone.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to backtrack just for a second. In listening to these two and Mary Beth talk about these things, it kind of hits me. And there's a buzz phrase that seems relatively new, although we've been hearing it forever, is risk management. Generally, what we do, especially what he does, what you do as a business owner, unfortunately, as you get farther and farther into owning a business, you'll realize what you do is risk management. There's all kinds of risks, whether it's the risk of not hitting the right market or confusing your consumer, the risk of being in a bad relationship and not having the right prenup, which, by the way, you don't.
Which is a whole different discussion. We're not having that today.
I'm talking about an operating agreement. Yeah. We can help with that too.
3 people in the room just woke up. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So that, I mean, honestly, I'm a guy that thinks in analogy. So when I heard Francis talking about the different entity structures and things like that, those legal documents are your prenup. If you're in a relationship with a partner or a investor or a lender, all those legal documents, you don't just want to pull them down off of LegalZoom. Not that that's a horrible thing. I know you're just starting out. You know, if somebody said you got to have an LLC or something like that, you do one on LegalZoom, that's fine. Because we're not to this point yet. You're spending your own dollars out of your own pocket. I get that. QuickBooks is fine for a while, and you doing it or your
sister-in-law or whatever, right?
Whatever, doing it is okay for a while.
By the way, Fiverr logo isn't okay for a while.
Fiverr logo is not okay? Okay. Never okay is Fiverr logo. But
Canva users, hide your heads.
You're managing risk all the time. And so you have to be able to, the first thing you have to do, or have business partners or partners like us to help you do, is identify those risks, figure out how you can mitigate those, maybe figure out how you can mitigate those financially, fiscally sound, in a fiscally sound way. But let's say you've already done all that. You've gotten to the point where you need some money. You know you've got a good product. You know who your market is. You've got your business plan put together. It's time to go get some money. Okay, that business plan is a great start, and it can be the linchpin of your package. But in order to go get an investor to invest in your company, you need more than just that business plan that you can hand them. You need a deal book or something like that. You need something that is well thought out, that they can walk through, and you can pitch your company. If I was a lender for a few years at a bank, and so if you're looking for a commercial bank, a lender on the corner down here to loan you money, that means, one, you've probably already started making some money, because they're not going to if you don't. If you haven't, unless you've just got a great idea and maybe you've done it before, it's going to be hard to get a commercial lender to do it. So you've got to have a great pitch book to get an investor. To get a lender, you've already made some money, you've got some financial statements, you're going to go talk to a bank. My clients, we don't go talk to the bank if we're going to maybe build a new building or try to buy a new line of product or service from another company, or whatever it is we're going to borrow that money for. We've already got a package put together for that lender. We're not just going to walk in and say, okay, what do you need? Because if you do that, they might still talk to you, but they're going to say, okay, I need this, and this. And then it's going to take you 2 or 3 weeks to put that together. And then it's going to take them 2 or 3 weeks to take a look at it, get it to loan committee, see if they want to do it. Walk in with your package put together, someone like us who knows what that lender is going to ask for before you have to go ask them what it is. And that's basically it.
No, that makes sense. And I'll tell you, I think there is a weaving here of the different ways that an early stage business can think about infusions of resources. That go get a commercial loan, certainly a path, ready for a, sort of a standard investor, get your deck kind of thing is thing. If you don't know where you are on that spectrum, get advice, whether it's from the folks here on the stage or other folks around the professional services community, or frankly, come to NXTUS, right? Like, Quinn sitting here in the middle of the room is going to give you straight answers on early stage companies are risk capital. And the ways you get around that is figuring out how to portray yours as a good risk and get angel investors or get private equity or get other, folks involved. Or the converse of that is you're going to have to play in risks beyond your business, right? If the only way you can get a commercial loan is to put up your house and your kids' college fund and your retirement or whatever, like may not, so if you want to try to keep this capital journey confined to your business, then you're going to have to look at the different genres of, capital raise ideas. Do you have, is it inventory financing that you could use? Is it, whatever it is. So, ask more than one source, talk about more than one type, and get good advice. And if the hard answer you get is you can't get money till you have money, cry a little bit, because that's not wrong. But then figure out how the future picture of your business with that realistic business plan can become more partnerable, more investable. And one of the things that we at NXTUS, through Accelerate Venture Partners and other programs that we're running, are trying to be is to create a better democratization of early stage capital, right? It shouldn't just be about who's in your Rolodex. And if you don't have 2 uncles that on the golf course will invest in young businesses, right? Like if that doesn't exist in your world, then you need to get really good partners and really good advice about how to access early stage capital. But you also have to have a dang good idea, the sweat equity behind it, and a path to success as a business. And if the investors are saying you don't have a path to success as a business, it's not that they're jerks who don't want to give you money. It's that you may still need to work, back to iterating on. Do you have the right idea, or do you have your customer in mind? Have you protected the uniqueness of what your offering is to the degree? So you're back to your cycle. So your churn based on that feedback is super important. You don't just stand there with the deck you drew up 2 years ago, wondering why no one will get invested. You got to keep cranking the turns, or you will, if not stumble, you'll stagnate, and that can feel just as stifling as a young business. I'm not going to put you guys on the spot for sort of wrap up. I want to see, no, we're not doing that right now. I want to see, do we have folks in the room that want to just throw out like a stumble question? Most of you, I think, are probably waiting to get your free advice on the side of the room afterwards, which I'm totally for. Questions from the room that we want to get in front of these guys? Eric.
Going back to the very first topic here, yes, thank you, Bill.
Hey, Eric.
One of the struggles that I find myself dealing with on a daily basis is that the answer to the question of who is your customer varies depending on who you ask at the organization. My office has a different answer than the senior director over our housing division, who has a different answer than the senior director over our clinical division, et cetera, et cetera. Does that mean our mission is too convoluted? Does it mean we're too narrowly defining audience? Does it mean that
You're confusing stakeholder with customer, right?
And so we don't know who to target ourselves to with our limited assets to get outside of the building, because we all have different answers to that question.
Right. Yeah, and Eric, it's a great question, and every industry obviously is going to be different. So I'll try and give you some kind of rule of thumbs to kind of work with here. The broader you try and make yourself, the more challenging it is to tell your story. Period. If you're explaining, you're losing. And you want to be able to share a very specific story about what it is you make, you sell, you service, so that it is easily understood out there. And, branding, if it is about anything, is about clarification and consistency. And if your customers know what you do, they'll come to you and not spend time waiting for you to explain to them what you do. When I think about some of the most successful businesses, they have found ways to, even if they are a broad service business, to break those services down into silos, so that there is a group specifically targeting each of those silos from a marketing perspective, so that there is a consistent message to each of their products if they have to. But it ultimately comes down to your being able to share that story with people about exactly what it is you do.
Yeah, and I would toss in just that clarity is incredibly important. But if you happen to be offering a service or even a product that has kind of two halves to its customer story, or more than two pieces, you've just got to be super clear on both of them. We have a couple of startups we've worked with recently that are offering up. Did I just? Yeah, I did. Okay, did that on purpose.
Cool.
I absolutely wanted to go to that next slide. Who are offering a sort of a matchmaking service for folks that need jobs and are kind of hard to be hired and find jobs, and folks that are trying to improve the community's ability to place people that are hard to find jobs for, right? So this particular startup offers a service. It is paid for by like a city social services, charitable, almost kind of public service entity. So they're a customer, they're the ones paying the bill. And you've got to be very clear on why it is they should buy you rather than some other service that can help them get hard to place job seekers in their community placed. But then there's the job seeker, and they are in fact a customer of what you do, and their user experience and the success you have of marrying them up with your mission is, so you need a clear story for both halves of that market you're making. Who is benefiting from your service and who's paying the bill? So, but if it gets more complicated than that, then perhaps you have to work on your own clarity, right? Because there's a lot of stakeholders that care about what you're doing. That's different than who actually buys your services and who actually pays for your services. And for the majority of businesses, that's the same human buying a cup of coffee or a fizzy drink. For some folks with a service in the marketplace that's more complex than that, you may have to tell both sides.
Eric,
Um,
even for clarity of brand, because the slide that's up right now has Matchstick Alliance on it, and I think that we've got a handout which has a variety of different guidelines that can be used in just starting this process. But in clarity of story, one of the reasons that we selected the name Matchstick Alliance is because we realize that when a person has that idea, that they are starting to pull together all of those elements. Think of it as being a matchstick, you know, that little wooden piece that has the ability to burn inside of it, and it has the phosphorus and the elements that in the striking element that allow it to create the fire to light that and to make it go will never light on its own. It's just a matchstick. But we try and provide that level of friction, if you will, that's necessary so that when you strike that, it actually starts to flame and it starts to, you know, ignite and to take off. And that's part of our story, is being able to provide that level of friction that you need to your idea in order to make it take off.
Did you guys see how smoothly he did that? Ladies and gentlemen, a brand wrap up for Bill Gardner, who will never fall short in telling a story with vivid clarity. Okay, I'm delighted that all of these guys are here today. I'm so excited for what they represent, and frankly, the energy that is provided by professional services firms around our community. And that is, this place wants to birth and help thrive young businesses, early stage businesses, whether they are Main Street hang a shingle, cool local that might someday grow, or intentionally scalable tech-enabled startups, whatever they are. So many people, whether they're business, they're service providers, you know, that are 5 years old or 105, realize that that is going to be the fuel for prosperity, growth, and a thriving economy for our region. And so we're doubling down with the intentional cultivating of that environment, such that folks are emboldened and then given the tools, if they're willing to put in the sweat and have the clarity of thought and work really hard at starting a business, there's going to be a lot of support behind you. So that's the theme of NXTCONNECT. That's clearly the theme of our Matchstick Alliance guests today. I want to give you a commercial for our next NXTCONNECT. We're changing up the timing a little bit. We decided the last Friday in July might be vacay central for too many folks. And so instead we are going to, and I've got the driver, so here's what I'm going to do. August 12th, August 13th, that second Friday of August, the kids get back in school the day before, for those for whom that is relevant. Vacations will somewhat be wrapping up. Everybody get back from the mountains or the beach or the lake or the shore in time for NXTCONNECT on August 13th, because Bob Jones from Cambridge, Massachusetts, he is a mentor with the Pipeline program up in Kansas City. He is a national representative to the MIT Venture Program for startups. He is an incredibly vital leader nationally on honing in on the growth of your customer base as a young business. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business, but he will go further and say, if you don't have enough customers to help you thrive, then it's probably because you need to go back for maybe your second or third or fifth iteration of honing in on why your customer loves you, and feeding into that. Who influences your customer and how do you ethically influence them? So this is the 201 version of your customer knowledge, that focus on your customer, their personality, their place, and again, why they choose you, which is sometimes an answer that forces you to get way out of your why I love my product and into exactly that mindset that Bill discussed earlier, which is, why might a customer love me and how do I go find them and via what means? So this is going to be a really interesting session. We may actually start it a little early, so be watchful for the invitation to that. So we want this to be a super meaty, very interactive. You form the session with your questions. Bob's coming all the way in from Boston, people. So let's pick his brain, and we'll have a really great session on August 13th. So you get a pass in July. Enjoy whatever vacations you can scrape together in this mostly post-COVID world. Some of you even might feel free to join me on airplanes around this great country of ours. And we will see you on August 13th. Thank you very much, Groover Labs, for hosting. Thank you very much, Matchstick Alliance, Gardner Design, AGH, and Fulston Siefken for your presence today. See you again in about 6 weeks. Have a great day.